Hello. Today I will be bringing you the Prinz Eugen. Now, looking at the Prinz, you can see it looks very much like the Admiral Hipper. In fact, this is probably one of the most direct copies of the Admiral Hipper you could possibly imagine. Now, getting this ship, I was naturally hoping for something special. I was perhaps hoping the ship would change. Something special would be added, something that would make it differ or make it stand out from the Admiral Hipper in a specific way. But so far it's almost been a carbon copy of the Admiral Hipper. In fact, this has to be one of the laziest premiums I have seen in the game so far. I mean, pretty much everything is identical. The changes are extremely small. I mean, the torps are identical, the guns are identical. I mean, this ship has 200 meter less range than the Admiral Hipper, that's pretty much it. And the maneuverability is pretty much identical. They're both fairly slow, 32 knots as the Admiral Hipper is. The turning circle, 30 meters less on the Admiral Hipper, 770 on the Prinz, 740 on the Admiral. Rudder shift is like 0.2 second difference. Concealment is once again slightly worse on the Prinz, like 300 meters though. All these differences are so small. Like, it's very small differences. Everywhere the differences are extremely small. The Prinz Eugen has slightly more HP, but once again we're talking about, wait, how much is it? I think it's like 1.2k HP difference. Like, that's how much more HP the Admiral Hipper has, or how much less HP the Admiral Hipper has. This really has to be, in my opinion, one of the laziest premiums Wargaming have released pretty much ever. I mean, I have there are some premiums that are very similar to others. For example, the Loyang and the Benson, they're very similar. Like, the Loyang is basically a Benson with a sea hull, but the Loyang, for example, has hydroacoustic surge, which makes it play extremely differently than the Benson. Like, simply because of this one consumable, the playstyle is entirely different on the Loyang than it is on the Benson, and that makes it from a boring premium into an interesting one because of the playstyle differences. Once again, Chapayev, Kutuzov, very similar type of ships, both these long-range HE spammers, but one relies on smoke, the other relies on stealth firing, and once again they play very differently, and they are both enjoyable if different, and both very strong if different. Tirpitz, Bismarck, once again very almost close to identical stats except for the secondaries and the lack of torps, and once again this makes the ships play entirely different. These are interesting premiums because they've come up with their own identity for these ships. They have something that make them stand out, something special that make these ships stand out. The Prinz Eugen has nothing special. Like, it's literally a Admiral Hipper. I mean, going over the stats, it's basically a clone, honestly. She has slightly more HP, slightly less range, slightly worse AA, once again barely noticeable, slightly worse handling, barely noticeable, slightly less visible, barely noticeable. Like, it's like they traded 1.2k HP for a couple decimal points everywhere. That's pretty much all the Prinz Eugen is. So this is a very easy question to answer for you if you should buy this ship or if you will like this ship. Did you like the Admiral Hipper? If you did, then you will probably like this ship. But considering this is a T8 premium, you have to take into account that it will compete straight against all the other T8 premiums, meaning it will compete against Kutuzov and it will compete against the Atago in terms of cruisers. And both the Kutuzov and the Atago are excellent cruisers, and they are both cruisers I highly recommend. And honestly, unless the price on the ship is extremely low, I mean, I feel like they really have to put the price tag extremely low on the ship to make it competitive. There's literally no reason to buy this one instead of buying one of the other two. If you really want a German cruiser captain trainer, then you're honestly better off buying the Scharnhorst in my opinion, because the Scharnhorst is significantly more exciting to play. And of course, and there's the other reason that this ship really doesn't do well in the current meta. I mean, the current meta right now is literally German battleships everywhere. There's the Scharnhorst, there's the Gneisenau, there's the Bismarck, there's the Tirpitz. Those are just T7 and T8s, then there's the T9s and T6s. Like, all these new German battleships have been added, and the meta in general right now is very, very battleship heavy. And the Admiral Hipper, just like the Prinz, is very much focused on killing cruisers. So this one is just because of extremely weak HE but rather strong AP. The ship doesn't really fit the current meta well at all. So she's out of place in the current meta, and she's basically a clone of a ship that already exists. Like, even the camo, I had high hopes that maybe the camo would have some sort of saving grace on it, since basically that's what this entire ship feels like, one big reskin of the Admiral Hipper. So maybe the camo is going to be something special. Nope, it gives the standard minus 3% concealment and minus 4% chance to be hit and 50% basic speed. That's it. That's pretty much it. They could literally have made this entire Prinz Eugen ship a premium camo that you can buy for like 1,000 doubloons and unlock on the Admiral Hipper. I mean, that's what it feels like. There's literally no point in making the ship this premium. So, if you want a cruiser trainer, a German cruiser trainer, you're better off buying the Scharnhorst, because a cruiser captain works extremely well on a Scharnhorst. If you want a T8 money-making cruiser captain, you're better off buying the Otago or the Kutuzov. So it's literally, if you're a collector, then sure, I guess the ship is worth buying. Or if you absolutely love the Admiral Hipper for some reason, you really can't get enough of that Admiral Hipper gameplay, then I guess, once again, this ship is your ship. But I don't feel like this is, first of all, a good time to even be buying this ship or even be playing this ship, because once again, as I said, first of all, you're T8, so you have a chance to end up against T10s, and the Admiral Hipper really doesn't punch that well up against T10s, because once again, they're very AP reliant ships, and AP reliant ships in general don't do that well against higher tiers, especially because the Prinz Eugen, well, you have to be able to penetrate to be able to do damage, which means that automatically AP spamming ships scale worse than HE spamming ships. But of course, okay, this Colorado is turning out to be an issue. Okay, we're just getting ass blasted this game. It's not even close. But, like, I have a hard time recommending this ship to anyone except Admiral Hipper fanatics and people who absolutely want to collect all the ships. But even people who want to collect all the ships, this thing stands out so little from the Admiral Hipper that there's not really much point in even collecting this ship. I mean, I consider even the Krasny Krim, I consider a more exciting premium than this one. Even though the Krasny Krim was absolutely terrible in comparison. At least it had some role, like it stood out as its own ship. But this one has no role, it's literally just an Admiral Hipper clone. I kept hoping that I guess there's one other reason to buy this ship. Hoping that at some point VG will release Buffett with some special gimmick, like the Kutuzov has its smoke, or the Otago has its self-heal, and Indianapolis and Atlanta have their radar and so forth. Like, maybe you can hope that this ship will get its own gimmick to buff it at some point. But honestly, buying any premium in the hopes that it will eventually be buffed significantly is just a waste of money in general. Like, you shouldn't be counting on it. I mean, at Atlanta it took absolutely ages for the Atlanta to be given something, and when it was finally given something, it was given radar, which was significantly less useful than the smoke that it actually needed, and instead they gave the smoke to the Flint, which you can see on the stats is performing so much better than the Atlanta. It's not even funny because of course a smoke was exactly what it needed. So if you love Admiral Hipper gameplay, you like that long range AP spam, strong torps. I mean, this is just it's an Admiral Hipper. There's nothing else to it. I mean, I literally felt like when I tried to make this commentary, I felt like I could put a big fat disclaimer on the top, like say TLDV Admiral Hipper clone, no need to buy. And that's what it feels like. So I even selected the shortest game I could find in this game where we absolutely get steamrolled by the opponent because there's so little to talk about this ship. There's so little. Like even the AA, I mean, Prinz Eugen has like 10 less AA DPS at max range. That's pretty much it. It has 288 DPS at max range, whereas the the Hipper has 288 DPS and the Prinz Eugen has 277. 11 DPS difference at long range. That's once again the difference in AA, and that minimal decimal difference continues throughout every single stat. There's nothing special about this ship. It's the most unimaginative premium I've pretty much seen in the game so far. Like, and this, I like the Lo Yang, and a lot of people hated on the Lo Yang for being a boring premium. So if you consider the Lo Yang a boring premium, what are you gonna consider this one? Okay, we are getting absolutely wrecked. My team is struggling so hard against these guys, and I'm being surrounded now from everywhere. Of course, ship doesn't really do well when it's surrounded, or when people are angling against it. Much like all German cruisers, you need that flat broadside. But it's impossible for me to angle against anyone anymore, or everyone. Yep, that's me destroyed. And it looks like the rest of us, the Tirpitz is about to go down, and that's the end of the game. And that's the ship, like, that's it. I really wish I could give you guys something else, but I'm like, it's a nice money maker. Well, this was actually because I got 2 missions done, so it's not even, it's a premium. It's T8 premium, of course it's gonna be a nice money maker. But when you can pick between the Tirpitz, the Tag, and the Kutuzov, big T8 money makers, why would you get this one? Which has literally no identity, no nothing. I mean, all I gotta wonder for Wargaming, why didn't they even attempt to make it something special? Like, they could have made it even weaker than the Admiral Hipper as long as it had something special going for it. But this is just such a underwhelming ship in general. There's literally no reason to buy it at all.